Good afternoon. I'm Councilor Dee Knutson, and I would like to welcome you all to our weekly informational for April 7th. And what a beautiful day it really is today. First of all, we'd like to start out with our City Council staff report with Deborah Owen, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. Just to remind everyone out there that tomorrow the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We would love for you to come down and cast your vote at your neighborhood polling place, or if it's inconvenient, say you're downtown and around the downtown area, up until 3 o'clock you can cast your vote at the County Administration Building on the corner of Minnesota and 6th. In addition, just to remind everyone that the April 21st, that's 2 weeks away, that Monday informational will be joined by the county commissioners and be hearing from the citizen survey presentation, the crew from Colorado. And then also just to, if I could, just say a brief thanks for the election ahead. We have had, we hire about 100 workers to help us with this endeavor, and they really are very dedicated people who do it for the love of the election and not the money. So we just want to say thank you to all of those who are very busy right now preparing for tomorrow morning. And also just to remind you all that we'll be doing a brief budget preliminary discussion at the fiscal committee meeting this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you again. City Council would like to thank again our own staff for their extra effort during this incredibly hectic time getting ready for a very important municipal election tomorrow. And I'm sure that all the candidates out there are just as exhausted as you guys, but we really do appreciate your extra effort, so thank you very much. At this time, we'll go on with our regular committee reports, and we'll start with the Audit Committee, Councilor Kavanaugh.
We have three audit reports that you'll be hearing later on this evening.
Thank you, Kevin. Fiscal Committee, Councilor Costello.
We will meet immediately following the informational meeting to discuss the new presentation of the monthly financial statements, the new form. Gene's going to make that presentation, and also the brief presentation on our 09 budget for the council.
Okay, thank you. Land Use, Councilor Jameson.
No report.
All right. Public Services Committee, Councilor Brown.
I defer to you, Madam Chair, to talk about the meeting that was last week with the Helpline Center.
Okay. Councilor Staggers can help me on that, too, if he wishes, is that last Thursday evening, Councilor Staggers and I attended a focus group with some parents, about 6 parents, and that the helpline, the 211 helpline people had put together for us to just visit about their daycare, child care concerns. It was wonderful that there was a guy in the group, so we had 5 moms and 1 dad. It was good to see him there, too. And again, I think, it's just, it's not new information. It's just a good reminder as far as how difficult it is to find reliable child care in our community, because many of the very good centers are already full, and again, it's trying to find a center that is in their particular area of town, and one that maybe will work on an hourly rate as opposed to being there full time, and so forth. And again, Carol Muller, the helpline director, had 4 major questions for the parents, and the rest of us just sat there and listened carefully. And it was just a very good discussion. And I would also like to thank our city staff person from the health department, Luann Ford, who is really an expert in this area, and she spent her evening with us too. And again, there are just differences of opinion as far as what should we do as far as the ordinance on the books right now. People like me believe that they could be improved, strengthened, made more stringent, whatever the right adjective is. And not every counselor there agreed with me totally, but I agreed with some of his comments. And so, Councilor Staggers, what would you like to add to my quick summary?
Well, it was really nice hearing the concerns of the parents with children and trying to find daycare and so forth. But we also did talk about, the effectiveness or lack of effectiveness of regulation. And in that context, we also brought up the idea of maybe having a website where citizens that can freely go onto a website and put down information on these different daycare centers. And so people that are looking around for daycare centers, they can access this website and find out the different comments that people have about these daycare centers, providing, more information than is now provided for these parents looking for good daycare centers.
And regarding Councilor Stager's comments about the website, which I think would be very, very helpful for everyone involved, actually. And there's some work being done on that preliminary work by the helpline people. But right now, I guess there's a website which I have not checked out yet through our local paper called SiouxFallsMoms.com. And I was wondering why it wasn't SiouxFallsParents.com, but I'll leave that editorial comment for another day. So anyway. Okay, with that, thank you, Councilor Stagers, for your additional comments, and we will move on to open discussion. And would any of you have anything? Councilor Costello.
On tonight's agenda, we've got a rezoning request for 7400 West 22nd Street, and it's come to my attention, I'm sure probably others as well, that this property is in foreclosure. And from a conversation with the city attorney, I think we probably should defer the action tonight to give the city attorney time to investigate how we should proceed with this, whether or not we should even rezone it since it has been foreclosed on. I would ask if Gary wants to add anything to that.
Okay, city attorney, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. At 1 o'clock this afternoon, I received a phone call from a neighbor who advised of the foreclosure. I wasn't exactly sure of the status and didn't have a chance to look before 4 o'clock, but I did see a copy of a website which indicates that the foreclosure has actually gone to sheriff's sale and is in redemption right now, with Deutsche Bank being the holder of the sheriff's certificate of sale, which certainly would indicate that Deutsche Bank is an interested party and should receive at least notice of the rezoning request so that they can make their position known if they would wish. That, at least first blush, that's what it appears to me.
Okay, and just a comment I'd add on that topic is last week at the briefing, the weekly briefing with the department heads and so forth, I just asked a question about at least just at that point, rumor about a foreclosure. I didn't know if it was more than that. And at that particular meeting last Thursday, I was just told that really regardless of the foreclosure situation, it's still a rezoning issue and that wouldn't really affect our decision on rezoning, if I recall the conversation correctly. But I'm comfortable with whatever the council wants to do on that item. Would you have a recommendation at this time for us?
Yes, I would request that the city attorney's office be given at least 1 week so we can study the status and, in fact, the legal effect of the foreclosure being in the status it is. There must be a judgment of foreclosure that's already been issued if it's been sold, and that does change the status. It's not just pending litigation. It's litigation with a judgment of foreclosure, I would guess.
Okay, and thank you. And Councilor Costello, would you just remind me, I should have it memorized, but I don't, what item number is that on the agenda?
I have no idea.
Okay. 39, thank you. The staff was wondering, and I should have been able to tell them.
I guess I bring this up because I'm aware that there will be a number of neighbors here tonight to speak against it. And if we're going to defer it, I wonder if we could let them know so they don't all turn out. I would hate to bring down the neighborhood just to turn them back.
Yes, I'm sorry, Councilor Jameson.
Has the sheriff's sale taken place?
According to the website information that I was shown, yes, it took place in March.
It took place in March?
Yes.
March
So
12th.
They have 6 months to redeem it?
If it's a 180-day redemption mortgage, I would believe that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you, Councilor Costello, would you have any other thoughts?
I don't, should we call them at all and try to head off the...
Councilor Brown?
I do have a phone number of one of the neighbors.
So do I. And I'm not sure if we can do this or not.
Well, we can't, officially vote right now, but I guess it could take a straw poll. So if you're going to support a deferral or whatever, I want to stay within my bounds here. How about just any comments from anyone else so you can get a feeling? Councilor Benega.
Well, obviously, the bank has a security interest. They ought to be involved in this process.
All right.
And I think we ought to defer it for the fairness of the bank.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Litz?
I would agree with Mr. Benning and Ms. Costello.
Any other councillors like to make a comment at this time? Okay, that seems to be kind of a feeling from some of you, if a couple of you councillors or planning staff or someone wants to call some neighbors, I'd say go for it. Time's going quickly. Councillor, or City Attorney?
I'm going to step out and call the planning department and ask them to convey to the neighborhood that the likelihood that this will be deferred tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Costello.
I have another item. I was wondering, Mark, could you, in your presentation on the 60-40 split with development-driven roads, you provided us with a copy of the proposed assessments or what the fees would be comparable to a number of other cities. And then the Home Builders Association had sent us a similar study that they had done, and the numbers are dramatically different. I was curious if you've gotten this letter, and if you have, if maybe perhaps not now, but in a relatively soon time frame, could you address the differences?
I certainly can. And I actually just asked for that today. One of the key differences is our last line, which actually looks at the amount of sales tax that is paid for a given building construction today, and that is something that I think that there is not apples to apples that we're starting to compare things to. And so what I committed to is that some of the ratios based on the amount of units per developed acre are different than what we used. And so we're going to work with them to actually make sure that our variables are the same. I'm sure we're very close. But for example, if they are assuming that 2.5 dwellings could be achieved through 1 acre and we went to 4, we are, there's a big difference in density there. And so when there's a big difference in density, it can skew the platting fees per development, and so that's what we have to do.
And you'll be able to provide us an update on that comparison?
We will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Costello. I had quite a few questions about that recent correspondence also. Any other open item discussions? I have a couple, but I'd like to let you share yours first. Okay, just a couple of other quick items is one, to just remind citizens who might be listening to our show today, our meeting today, I should say that this Saturday is our free electronics recycling day, and again, that will, our annual one, but again, I know the new policy is that we will now get to recycle electronics free once every month, which is wonderful. But again, so that reminder is from 8 to noon. It's intended for just residential recycling for our 5-county area. And again, the contractor who won that bid was Millennium Recycling on North 50th Street. And I know that residents from those 5 counties are being encouraged to turn west onto 50th Street North and then south onto 2nd Avenue and then into the event on 50th Street North. And so I would just like to encourage people to take advantage of that wonderful opportunity. And one other item on the press release that I noticed today was a good reminder that microwaves will not be accepted. They are considered appliances, and so they will not be accepted. And again, as I said earlier, that will be from 8 a.m. until noon this coming Saturday, April 12th. And then another project that I, as you all know, I'm very enthusiastic about, as well as all of you up here, is just a reminder that the Whittier Neighborhood Second Annual Cleanup date, the original date has just been changed just a week earlier. So I just like to encourage all of you councilors and residents out there to think about helping with this community-wide cleanup. And it will take place on the last Saturday in April. So it's going to be Saturday, April 26th. And this year it will start a little earlier. It will start at 7 a.m. and run until 4 p.m. And a significant change from last year is there will just be one drop-off site instead of 3, and it will be at Johnstone Supply, which just works out fabulously well for everyone involved. And again, I think all of us who were involved last year are just a little bit smarter than last year. At least I think we are. And we are just looking forward to a wonderful event. And the, the real stars, of course, on this are the residents, the neighbors in the Whittier neighborhood who have done such a nice job. But anyway, they are looking for more city councilors and more residents to raise their hands and help out. And again, Millennium Recycling will be providing a vehicle or a big trailer, big truck for recyclables that day. And I know that the South Dakota multi-housing folks will be very involved again. They have found even more volunteers than last year, and they found lots of volunteers last year. Gene Gerken worked very hard on this then and is at it again this year. And I know that recently they've decided to their organization is kind of raising some money for something that's really needed among the group. And then I checked with the banquet over the weekend to see if they would help us again, and that means feed us because we'll be very hungry and we'll be dirty and tired. And anyway, and once again they have stepped up to the plate, and they will feed all of the volunteers at 5 p.m. on April 26th. And again, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Novak Sanitary Service for providing all of the equipment to make this a very successful event. And as I said at the briefing the other day, the weekly briefing, the Whittier neighbors are extremely appreciative of the very collaborative effort and help by all of the city staff. The public works people will wash down that Johnstone driveway again like they did before. And immediately after the meeting, I had a note from Chief Barthel saying, hey, Dee, we'll patrol a little extra that day. And well, anyway, the list goes on, but we just appreciate everyone's help. So I'm just doing a little advertisement on that effort. And then Gigi Ryder and I will do a Inside Town Hall show this Thursday at 12:15 on this event. And if I can help you in any way if any of you out there want to volunteer and you want to contact me, my home number is 338-9431, 338-9431, and I will find you an assignment. And thank you. And with that, we will continue with our staff reports. And our very next report is going to be on the Phase 3 of the Mosaic Wall downtown, the community, and be presented by the Russ Sorensen from the Planning Department, and then he will introduce our guests.
Thank you, Dee. Councilors, members of the audience, viewers at home. My name is Russ Sorensen, representing the City Planning Office this afternoon. Along with me is Lisa Brunig, art educator at Hawthorne Elementary School, Beth Babb, who's the art educator at Joe Foss, and we have a high school student, Emmett is here. We also have members of the Visual Arts Commission, Mr. Larry Etten, Chris Carmody Reeves, and we also have the Lyle Pudwell. And then I see Deb Klebanoff from the Sioux Empire Arts Council is here as well. Before you this afternoon is a resolution for your consideration to review and approve at your meeting on the April 21st for the placement and installation of the proposed Community Youth Mosaic Phase 3 on city property. The proposed location of the mosaic is the retaining wall located along East River Road between 9th Street and Faywick Park. Phases 1 and 2 were approved by the City Council and constructed in 2006 and 2007 respectively. This is a community partnership involving the Sioux Falls School District, high school students, the Sioux Falls District officials and teachers, the Sioux Empire Arts Council, local businesses, the city. However, there is no public funding provided for this project. Under the guidance of Lisa Brunig and Beth Babb, art educators, approximately several hundred high school students have created work of art celebrating diversity and unity in our community. The mosaic Phase 3 will measure 180 feet long and be 4 feet in height. The Sioux Empire Arts Council has again agreed to assist in the project and coordinate a continuation of this wall project. On March 18th, the Sioux Falls Visual Arts Commission reviewed the proposal and recommended that the third phase of the mosaic and placement be approved by the City Council. And at this time, I'd request Lisa and Beth and also in order to come forward, and they can present to you what that design will look like, and we look forward to presenting this information in more detail on the 21st.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us back. It was 3 years ago that I first came here with just a little story from hundreds of children at Hawthorne Elementary School, a dream to create artwork in the community from their hearts for a gift for all of you. And I cannot believe that we are this far along. The first section of the wall went up 2 years ago. The middle school section went up just this last fall. And now we have high school students who are ready to complete the story. So when the project is finished, you will have this beautiful panoramic display of children growing up through art from 3 years old all the way to 18 years old, celebrating diversity in our community. And I'd like to introduce Beth Babb, who is the art teacher at Joe Foss, who has helped, really done most of the work coordinating all of the high school students.
I'm just last in the phase of the wall that will be down on 2nd and 9th. It turns into 9th. And it is just wonderful that the high school students now have an ownership in some of the art downtown. So it's been just great that Lisa has started this and that we can complete it through the high school.
Well, like Lisa said, myself and hundreds of other high school students are ready to complete the story. It was an honor to be a part of the project, and I can't wait till it's completed. So,
Okay, if it's okay with you, we have a really long strip of paper. So let's see, Beth, maybe let's come around this way. Yeah, from the front. Okay. Okay, so again, it's celebrating diversity and how we live and work together in our school district, in our community. And at the very far end down like that, there's a tree. And as it goes throughout the process of the wall, the tree kind of morphs itself upside down, so the roots are going up. It's sort of how, it's like a circle of life, very much so. Lots of diversity is represented. Several hundred high school students drew pictures and we collaged everything together again. We'll use the same tiles that we use. We'll use the same tiles from American Olean again. So it'll be the same color palette that we've had all along. So it'll all just blend all together as we finish the wall. This will go all the way to 10th Street then.
Lisa, would you please remind us when this will be installed?
We're hoping for a fall of '08 installation. Once it leaves our hands and gets out to American Olean in Pennsylvania, it's sort of up to their, whatever their production schedule is. But we're crossing our fingers for the fall of '08. We will be doing fundraising this spring and through the summer. The community, the business communities, and private donations have just been so generous and so phenomenal. So we will get busy doing that again.
Would any of the rest of you have any questions or comments for the group? Councilor Benega?
The only thing I remember, and I was involved in the first couple, especially the elementary students, and I'm not going to pinpoint the middle school, but the enthusiasm of those young people when they presented their project and displayed it, if you will, was just incredible. They went on and on and on. It was supposed to be about an hour program, I think. By the time we got done, most of the morning was gone. But it was fun to watch their excitement and the fact that they wanted to see this thing continue. And even when you go by there now, if some of the students are walking by on that sidewalk, they all have very verbally expressed their appreciation and their I don't know what else you would say.
Their ownership, Gerald.
Ownership.
It's their wall. It's
That's
like,
the
there's
right
my
word.
wall.
Yeah. Ownership is the appropriate word because they do call it their wall, and it's pretty unique to have them do that. So thank you for all your work.
And thank you. And now will you all turn around the other way so the other side of the room can see that beautiful mural. And thank you so much for all of your efforts and for being here today to share this with us. Of course. we'll just make those arrangements with you, so, sure. Okay? Thank you again. Moving on to our next agenda item under staff report is this CIP number 115025, Visual Art on North Phillips Avenue, and Russ Cooper Russ Sorensen from the Planning Department will help us out on that topic also.
Thank you, Dee. Members of the council, Russ Sorensen again with the City Planning Office. Along with me this afternoon is Larry Etten from Chris Carmody Reeves and Niall Pudwell from the Visual Arts Commission. Again, Deb Klebanoff with Sioux Empire Arts Council. We appreciate the opportunity this afternoon to present information of a visual art project resolution that you'll consider on the 21st of April. And it is known as the Visual Art Wall that will be located on city property along the west side of North Phillips Avenue, north of 5th Street, along the curved roadway, just before the railroad trestle. The City Council in August of 2007 established a project for North Phillips Avenue art, and it's referenced in this capital improvements program. In keeping with the policy for art placement in or on city property, a call for art in a separated jury panel process was conducted by the Visual Arts Commission for this project. A subcommittee was formed and established consisting of 3 commissioners. A call for art to South Dakota artists was distributed and published and posted online on December 7th of 2007 and conducted to January 17th of 2008. The Visual Arts Commission received 10 responses to their call for art for the Visual Art Wall. All 10 project submittals were reviewed by various city staff representing Accessibility Board, the Public Works Engineering Department, Parks and Recreation, Risk Management, and Planning and Building Services. City staff forwarded their comments onto the Commission's jury panel prior to their January meeting. That jury panel convened on the 30th of January, and their recommendations were then forwarded to the Visual Arts Commission. At their February 19th meeting, the Visual Arts Commission considered and accepted recommendations from the jury panel and the subcommittee. And it was determined by the Visual Arts Commission that the project submittal E, known as In Veritate Concordia, or in Latin, United in Diversity, was their preference. They did have some questions, and they invited the artist to meet with the subcommittee, which happened on March 5th. At their March 18th meeting, at the regular meeting, the Visual Arts Committee subcommittee presented their findings to the full committee. The artist, Mr. Matthew Cargill from Bath, South Dakota, was known as Artist E and presented and introduced to the Visual Arts Commission at that time. Specifically, the project description is that it's a visual art wall. We have slides for you on the overhead monitors that will measure approximately 8 to 9 feet in height, 38 feet in length, and be 2 feet in wide, and set on a colored concrete foundation or base. The base would be extended upon both ends of the wall, and the cube ends of the wall would be slightly curved in to parallel the curvature alignment of the roadway. The visual art wall would be set back a minimum of 10 feet, as recommended by Parks and Recreation and the planning staffs, so as to accommodate sidewalk maintenance in the winter and any future North Phillips Avenue parade events for bystanders. The wall will entail 4 brushed stainless steel cubes with openings for colorful crane figures. These crane figures will be constructed of mild steel and powder coated. The 2x2 stainless steel wall panels will be screwed onto a substructure made of mild steel and powder coated. And each panel will have a certain directional grinding finish to give the wall a patchwork effect. Recessed spotlights are proposed inside each cube above the crane figures, and an interpretive plaque with inscription would be provided. The artist would be responsible for the visual art wall project construction, production, placement, and installation, not to exceed $50,000, which was the amount allotted in the capital improvements program. The project deadline is that we're hoping that the project would be completed by October 1st of this year, and based on the notice to proceed, your action and the notice to proceed, we're looking that that is a reasonable time frame. At this time, I'd offer any comments that the Visual Arts Commissioners might have for you, or we're here to entertain any questions you might have. Thank you.
Councilor Skagers?
Yes, I remember when we talked about this several months ago and the $50,000 cost to the city for this taxpayer money. And I guess I was hoping that we would get some artwork that would fit in with nature, because when I think of Falls Park, I think of nature. But here we have something that doesn't seem to fit in with that context, and I was wondering if somebody could say something about that.
Well, in the information provided, Councilor Staggers, there is a write-up that talks about the Native American story, the white buffalo here, and its natural symbolism with that, and tied to the falls, as well as with the cranes. They're symbolic of peace and harmony and unity with the various races that we have throughout our world. With also the project of Uptown going to North Phillips Avenue, that'll be more of a modern development. Then we also, on the east side of Phillips Avenue to the falls, we have the falls. We feel that this would be a nice blend of both the Uptown project that we'll soon see beginning development there, as well as embellish the falls as well.
Okay. I guess people just have difference of opinions about art. You know, I can understand the symbolism, but also at the same time, it still does not appear to you know, once again, I'm thinking of Falls Park, and this just doesn't seem like it fits.
Would there be, Councilor Jameson?
Russ?
Yes.
Where is it going to be located in references to the arch down there?
You have that. Up on the screen, it would be to the north end of Phillips Avenue. From the arch, you continue northwards, and on the curve just before you get to the trestle, railroad trestle, it'll be on the west side. And as if you come underneath the trestle going southbound toward downtown, it would be framed by that trestle, if you will.
Would there be any other questions or comments for Mr. Sorensen? Thank you. Thank you very much. And did you say that you have other people that would like to speak today? Is that correct? Okay.
Commissioner Larry Etten would have a few words.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Etten.
Hi, thank you.
Would you identify yourself for the staff and so
Sure.
forth?
I'm Larry Etten, and I'm a member of the Visual Arts Commission. And I just thought I would address something that Commissioner Staggers. It is one of the things that we seriously talked about at great length with the artist himself, because we had such a diversity of options to look at, and none of them were more apparent, shall we say, in that kind of regard. But could we look at the picture where you can see the 4 blocks? If you look at that, you'll notice that, the one that's more of a distant picture, exactly. There you go. If you look at the far left one, it looks different than the other ones because it's a little more bluish. One of the changes that came about, that came out of our discussions for in that regard of how does that do it, it originally, the artist had conceived it with a flat surface in white. And as Russ mentioned, now the surface will actually be a brushed chrome steel look, so that there will be a reflectivity of it, so that as you walk up to look at these and look at the cranes and look at the whole thing, you will be somewhat reflected, as will the grass, as will the sky. There'll be some element of that that's somewhat diffused. It won't be a direct mirror, but that the individuals of the city will have a reflection, and the city itself, through the surrounding nature, will have somewhat of a small reflective approach, if you will, in those things, to sort of combine not just the ideology of the artist, but the humanity of the people witnessing it. If that helps at all, that was kind of one of the things we talked about. And he was one, but on this drawing, he didn't get back to trying to recolor all of the frames for us, but I thought maybe I'd help clarify that a little bit in terms of the look.
And thank you for the additional comments, and thank you for serving on that volunteer board.
Oh, you're entirely welcome. We have a great group on that board. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
All right, we will continue with our final item today for informational, and we have 3 internal audit reports. They are payroll, transit, and the landfill cache area, and they will be presented by our lead internal auditor, Rich Oxel. And Rich, thank you for being with us again today.
Thank you. I just want to remember what Ty English told you last week when he presented the external audit report, and just kudos to the finance department for another good audit. It was obviously a clean opinion. And Ty mentioned that that we try to maximize our coverage between external auditors and internal auditors. We try not to duplicate our efforts, although our main focus is different than what Ty and his staff are trying to do. His focus is on financial statements, basically, and to see that they're presented fairly. But there is some overlap, and we try to coordinate that. The way we do that is we talk to each other regularly. We share audit reports, and we have a good working relationship with Eide Bailey right now. So just want to mention that. This is the first of many audit projects that we have scheduled for this year that you approved back in January. I'd just like to say at the beginning that we had a very good cooperation with management and their staff, and they were very responsive to our audit recommendations. So I'd like to thank John Nardini, the General Manager of Sioux Falls Transit, Jennifer Holson, the Director of Human Resources, and David McElroy, the Landfill Manager. The first report I'd like to look at, and you should have a hard copy, you should have electronic copies. If not, we'll fix that later. But I'd like to look at the landfill report first. And if we had done this audit about 8-10 years ago, this would have been a very sad report. We had a lot of audit issues back then. I got involved when I was working with the finance department. We had some employee theft situations at landfill about 8-10 years ago. Since then, management has worked very hard to strengthen controls greatly, and we're pleased to report that controls are working very well. We did have some opportunities for improvement, which we discussed with David and the staff, and they were very responsive to that. There's a few recommendations we did not put in the public report, but we discussed with the audit committee and the staff, and they were we took care of that. So we're pleased to report that city assets, the cash primarily, is being controlled properly. The proper rates are being charged. There's policies and procedures. There's physical security, and the controls are functioning well. If you have any questions at this time, I'll take them on that audit.
Any questions, team?
We'll be doing 4 of these types of audits during the year. This is the first of the 4 where we focus primarily on the cash handling. And I think we're going to be hitting we've already done an audit on building services. We'll do library and health department later in the year. So you'll see these reports again.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Councilor Stagers.
Rich, I understand that when a truck goes through the facility there are 2 people necessary to process that truck.
Yes.
Is there any foreseeable way where we could just eliminate one person and just have one person doing this?
Well, that was the problem 8 to 10 years ago. We had one person doing it, and that's where we had tremendous problems.
Yeah, but we're spending lots of money to have an extra person now, too.
Well, David, you want to help answer that question? But we do have some efficiencies in the system using barcoding and that sort of thing. But David's probably in a better position to explain some of these issues.
Sure. I guess I would invite you to come maybe on a Saturday when we're really busy. And I think
Would you,
you'll
excuse
see,
me for interrupting
excuse
you,
me.
would you please just introduce yourself formally just for the listening audience and our...
Dave McElroy, Landfill Superintendent for the City of Sioux Falls.
Thank you.
I guess I can understand your concern. From what I have seen, last Saturday was the first Saturday of our free pass. We had over 400 customers, and both sides are hopping. They are busy during those times.
Sure. But you're not that busy all the time either. And so...
Well, that's not necessarily true. We noticed when we went out there to observe operations, a lot of times they have to eat their lunch at the window. They don't have, I mean, they can't, it's so busy, they don't have time to have a lunch hour. But it is busy, and like you said, on Saturday, they're very busy. Mm-hmm. And the employee theft situation that we had back then was in the 6 figures, probably. The previous manager, I talked to Jason when Jason was the manager. He said it easily could have been hundreds of thousands of dollars that they lost. We're not sure of the exact figure, but it was a tremendous amount of cash that we think was being stolen because we just had one person there. So it's a lot of money goes through there, and you have to have some segregation of controls.
Councilor Costello has a question.
I would imagine that this amounts to one person running the scale and that, and another person actually collecting the money. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So it's really, as you said, just a matter of basic segregation of duties and separating the control of that. And I don't think I'm not sure what one of those operators or what we pay those people, but I would imagine that's money well spent.
Will you go ahead with any other audit comments you have?
Sure. We'll look at the payroll audit next.
Sorry. Counselor Benega?
Just a question, I guess. I didn't see any audit report information in my file. Did anybody else get theirs?
You know, was all posted on Granicus as usual, but I think probably we did not get hard copies, and it may be because of just how busy they've been with the election preparation.
I think the clerks have been extremely busy this
I
week.
believe that maybe is what happened.
Do you want copies now?
We'll look at them later. We'll obviously trust his comments, but the other thing I want to say is anybody that's gone through an audit like most of us have, who have some cash transactions, would know that one of the things that auditors always look at is segregation of responsibilities. And without that segregation, you will get a management letter from the auditor that says that that process needs to be corrected, or in fact, you'll get reported in that process to the Department of Legislative Audit in Pierce. So I appreciate the fact that you have looked through that and in fact corrected that issue, or we would be hearing about that on a regular basis, and eventually the auditor would not approve the audit.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed your hand a few minutes ago.
Okay. Let's look at the payroll audit next. Payroll is a huge expenditure of the City of Sioux Falls. We're spending about $60 million a year on payroll. And that's one reason that we looked very closely at this. We are looking at the overall controls over payroll to see that they're operating effectively. And we're pleased to report that we found for the most part they're in very good shape. There's a proper segregation of duties. There's written policies and procedures. HR is doing a lot of monitoring of the individual departments because the process is somewhat decentralized. Each department has a payroll clerk that enters the timesheets at the computer. Although HR is responsible for the overall supervision of the system. We did have one audit issue, and it was a minor one, and it was a case of the payroll clerks that are out in the departments. They have their timesheet approved by their supervisor, signed, and then they get that sheet back, and then they input their hours. We recommended that they not get the timesheet back after they turn it into their supervisor. We didn't think that was a good idea. We discussed with HR during the time we were doing the audit. They agreed, and they came up with a procedure to correct that before the audit work was done, so we commend them for their responsiveness on that. And we did one thing that we looked at for sure is something called ghost employees. Ghost employees is what auditors call people that may or may not exist, but they're on the payroll. They're not bona fide employees. And it could be a fictitious person that somebody in payroll has made up in order to generate a payroll check and convert that to personal use. Or it could be a relative, a friend that is collaborating with somebody on the inside to receive a payroll check, and they split the proceeds. So we came up with 4 different audit tests to try to see if we could spot these ghosts. We're pleased to report that we had no evidence that was going on, something that we'll continue to look at. And I would say that for the most part it's very well controlled, but it's something that we have to look at all the time because it's such a huge amount of money and it is somewhat decentralized. So anytime you're decentralizing an operation like that, you have to just stay on top of things. And back in 2001, HR began doing that on a regular basis because they did have problems with one department, and they identified some training issues, some procedure issues, and they expanded that work to all the city departments. And some they look at a little bit more than the others. The ones that they know they have more problems with, they look at those a little bit closer. So we'll continue to look at that as we do our audits. Are there any questions at this time on payroll?
Councilor Stagers?
It doesn't relate directly so much to payroll, but the City of Sioux Falls does allow nepotism. And I was wondering, can you say something about other cities of our size? Do you have any idea, Rich, if they permit nepotism or not?
Well, when you say nepotism, are you saying in the hiring or promoting that, or are you just saying that we allow relatives to be employed?
Yes, that's exactly
yes.
right.
We allow married couples, for example.
Yes,
We,
right.
when we're doing our audit procedures, we identified some cases where it appeared to be like a father-son that were perhaps temporary employees of the city, married
Yes.
couples. When we did our audit test, we could see that, for example, 2 or more direct deposits are going to one bank account. And then when we investigate that, we find out that it's a married couple.
Yes.
The reason we do that is because sometimes that can be in illegitimate situations where you have a fictitious employee. But all the cases we saw were a husband-wife team. I'm speaking off the cuff now, but I believe that, relatives are not supposed to supervise each other. Right. Usually the case is the husband and wife are working in separate departments, and that's okay. I don't think we have any policy against it because we have many examples of that.
But other communities are size.
It's not uncommon. It's common in other cities for that to happen. Okay. I don't think there's many cities that forbid that. I think the problem is if you have working in one department where you'd have a relative supervising another relative, or be in a position to write their performance evaluation or something
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
That would not be good. Now, we do have a case in my department where I have an auditor, his wife works in another city department, and his auditing standards require that I cannot assign him to do audits of that department. It would have the appearance of not being objective, so I have to be careful about that.
Would there be any other questions or comments for Mr. Oxel? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, for the last one, save the best for last. This is the longest report. As I'm sure the council is aware, we contract the management of Sioux Falls Transit to a management company, Laidlaw International. And we do have our transit planner in the audience if we have some questions later for Deborah that she might be able to answer better than I can. But there are two simple objectives for this audit. One was to see that they're being compliant with the contract, the written contract that we have with Laidlaw to manage the transit system. And number two, we wanted to compare the performance of Sioux Falls Transit with the performance of comparable transit systems. And as far as the provisions of complying with the management agreement, they were in compliance, and we had no issues there. We did have a couple of audit issues, but I want to save that for a couple minutes from now. Things that came up as we were doing the audit work. For comparing Sioux Falls Transit with other transit systems, our task was made much easier by the fact that transit systems have to report their data to the federal government, to the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, and there's a National Transit Database, NTD system, that you can access. Anybody with internet connection can get on there, and you can see the reports from all the other transit systems in the country. They have to report all kinds of things, performance measures, just anything and everything has to be reported to the federal government. And we came up with comparable systems. We looked at, we wanted to get 6 that were about a little larger than Sioux Falls and 6 that are a little smaller, and we wanted to focus mainly on the central United States, and we came up with 12 comparable systems. Some of the cities we looked at were Madison, Wisconsin, Lincoln, Nebraska, Duluth, Minnesota, Fargo, Moorhead, Rochester, Minnesota, and so on. And then we looked at their data that they report every year to the National Transit Database. We looked at performance measures. We looked at source of funding and that sort of thing. And that's towards the end of your report if you get a copy of that. What we found for the most part is we averaged the performance measures that Sioux Falls Transit either was very close to the average or much better than the average. So we're pleased to report that we thought that they're doing very well when they compared to their peer group as far as operating efficiencies, service efficiencies, and that sort of thing. And that's all detailed in the report. We did have 2 audit issues, however, and we put those in the report. We sort of summarized what the audit issue was, and then we had a recommendation, and then we put the response from management from John Nardini, the general manager. We put that in italics so you can see his words. And he was very responsive to the audit issues, but we felt they were important enough to put in the written report. The one thing was that fixed assets were missing, or we found them, but they were obsolete or they were broken, that sort of thing. When we talk about fixed assets, it's things that are $500 or more that last more than a year. They're not spare parts. They're more likely equipment in the shop, buses, that sort of thing, fixed assets. We did our sample count. That's where we ran into a few problems, and then we expanded our sample to see if that was just an anomaly, and we found the same thing when we did the second sample count. We recommended that they do it again, and John had ordered his staff to do that fixed asset verification again. Normally they do it every year. It's a requirement of the Finance Department. Every department in the city has to do a fixed asset verification. They get a list from Finance of all their assets. The director or the manager is responsible for going through everything or having his supervisors do that, initial it, saying they eyeballed it, it's there. And if it's not, they're supposed to note that on the report. Well, apparently, the person that did that signed off on stuff that wasn't there. And there was other stuff that was, we looked at, say, a box, and the auditor said, okay, we see the box, let's open it up. We open it up, parts are missing, parts are broken, that sort of thing. So John replied that they did it again on March 13th. And we're directed by the audit committee to go back later in the year and verify that that had been done and make sure that problem was corrected. Now, the other issue was they're using electronic spreadsheets, in other words, Excel spreadsheets to track mileage and fuel usage, and they were having a lot of problems with these lately. City staff was becoming aware of the situation and trying to help them. There's a lot of problems with that. We identified the problem as using Excel spreadsheets that were very complex. They're becoming linked with each other. So if you change one cell in the spreadsheet, that would be linked to another spreadsheet, which would be linked to another spreadsheet. They were spending a lot of time trying to find errors, doing recalculations. And they were also saving that worksheet to the local computer. In other words, if you know anything about IT, they're saving it to the C drive instead of to the server, the city server. So it wasn't getting backed up every night like our servers do. So we recommend that they don't save it to the C drive. They save it to an H drive, which gets backed up by the city's IT department every night. And we also recommend that they go to Fleet, the city fleet department, and see what they're using for tracking fuel usage and that sort of thing. We thought that would be a better system to use, and they were very agreeable to that idea. They're working on it right now. We will go back and check to see that they are doing that. But that was definitely an issue during the audit that came up. Are there any questions at this point for me or for Deborah from Transit that we could answer?
Councilor Stagers?
Yes, you mentioned that people are signing off on fixed assets that are not there. Are there any consequences for these people?
That person no longer is employed there. Last fall they resigned, and apparently they'd done that asset verification a few weeks or a few months before they resigned. So that person is no longer there. There's a new manager.
Also, another question I have is in regard to, well, the subsidy that the city gives, not the federal subsidy, but the
city share
subsidy.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how much that is?
Yes. I broke down the percentages. Deborah, if you could, maybe you know it off the top of your head.
Hi, Deborah Gajkowski, Transit Planner. For 2008, it's approximately $4 million that the city will be contributing to the budget.
Okay, $4 million. And how much the Fed's contributing?
For operating, about $1.8 million for 2008.
Oh, okay. And then also, too, I guess another question I have is our payment of money for really non-bus functions, or in other words, you know, the labor disagreements that were going on, we're paying for lawyers, we're also paying, I understand, expenses and travel and all of that. How much are we paying for all of that non-bus functions?
I don't have a dollar amount right now. I know we have not paid for any travel for anything. We have paid for some legal fees, but we were not charged for any travel. And I believe that what you're referring to is laid law staff coming here. They did not charge us for any of that travel.
Okay.
But as far as the dollar amount in legal fees, I don't recall right now. I know we have put those numbers together, so I could certainly get that to you if you would like me to.
Okay. Do you think it's close to 500,000?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I think it's, yeah, I believe it's less than 50,000, I'm
Oh, okay.
sure.
Deborah,
you could-
we'll just look forward to an email from you if we
certainly
could,
can
please,
do
to
that.
answer those questions that Councilor Stagers has.
Sure.
And Councilor Costello?
Deborah, I would imagine that one of the benefits that we should enjoy from Laidlaw and now First Transit would that they should be able to look to their other cities that they run busing service for, and there's got to be some universal program out there that they use to track this, and I'm just shocked that they haven't come to the table with more support along those lines.
Are you referring to more like best management
Yeah,
practices kind
sure.
of thing? The situation with First Transit is they have two types of contracts. They have the management types of contracts, like the City of Sioux Falls have, and then they have the type of contracting where you just give them a dollar amount.
Deborah, would
and-
you just speak, excuse me, would you just speak into the microphone a little
Oh,
bit
certainly.
more? The staff has asked me to. And maybe you could introduce yourself again, too. I don't think you
Deborah
were up the
Gaikowski,
microphone.
Transit Planner with the City of Sioux Falls.
Thank you.
The other type of contract is you give them a dollar amount, and they have to work within that dollar amount. So at the end of the year, if they're short, they have to kick in the money, but if they've got money left over, they get to keep those funds. And in situations like that, the company enforces those best management practices. In our management type of contract, it's kind of up to the company, the Sioux Falls Transit, to decide which practices would work best for them, if that makes sense.
That almost sounds more concerning than I originally had thought. I would think that that we would be exercising every best management practice available, and
Well, it's really, I'm not saying that we're not. I'm just saying that that's the way it works. And Sioux Falls Transit has implemented quite a few things since First Transit came on, such as some safety features. I don't know if you see the bus drivers are all wearing these vests. Even at the parking lot, they have to back into their parking spaces so that they're not backing out. And of course, you know that more accidents occur when you're backing out. Just little things like that. In the maintenance department, the P&M, the preventive maintenance schedules are looked at. We are implementing quite a few things.
okay. Thank you.
Deborah, thank you for the additional information. Would anyone else have any other questions or comments for either Rich or Deborah? Okay, I'm sorry, Councilor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Rich. The transit audit, as is the case with other entities that we contract with for private entities, private management firms that we contract with for operating city facilities or services. Do you find generally, or maybe we haven't gone through enough, we've done one for Washington Management.
Yes.
I assume we've got Great Bear coming up and probably Dakota Golf coming up in the
Yeah,
near future.
Dakota Golf is coming up this year, and so is Global Spectrum with the Convention Center.
Are you
and the
finding
arena.
anything, and maybe it's too early to make this assessment, are you finding anything that you find that, could be of more assistance to these private management firms? Are they doing their due diligence?
Explain that. In other words, are they complying with what we expect in the contract? Is that what?
Well, obviously, at a
or-
minimum, they are, but
Yes.
in their efforts to comply, are they using, for
Best
example,
practices.
best management practices? Are there things that we can provide them? And I know you said that they were very responsive in this case.
Yes, they were.
Okay. Are you finding those things to be the case with other private firms that are managing some of our facilities?
Yes, so far, yes. We've just started getting into that, but we have a arena audit, which we were going to start next week. We have the golf management contract later this year, and also Global Spectrum. And so far, the companies have been very responsive. They understand that they are managing city assets for us, and they also understand that oftentimes they are competing with other firms that are willing to do that business also. And so I think that helps a lot, that they understand that they don't have a monopoly necessarily on the management contract.
Well, the reason I ask, I think, it's fairly obvious in some of the work that you've done, is that we've got quite a few controls in place on the city government side.
Yes.
We tend to be pretty good at controlling things. But when we farm things out and when we contract out to private enterprise, we tend to look at those as being experts in the field and let them do their job. And it's interesting that when we come in and look at their practices, sometimes they're less than to be desired.
Yes, that's true, and that's why we do these audits, and we'll keep doing these audits. We consider that a higher risk as auditors. When we look at things that we want to audit, we look at things with higher risk. Risk can mean you're spending a lot of money, like payroll, or if you have somebody that's not a city employee managing a city asset, then you want to look at them a little closer and more often. But so far, we've been pleased with the professionalism and with the responsiveness. Certainly with the Pavilion, with their efforts to become accredited, and just the good things we saw there.
Thank you.
Would there be any other questions or comments among the counselors on our 3 audits, reports? Okay. Thank you again,
Thank you.
Rich, for your reports today and your everyday work for us. One other item I forgot to just mention during the open discussion is regarding item number 37. I hadn't heard any controversy at all until about a little bit before 3 o'clock today, and I visited with an owner of one of those twin homes named. Yes.
I've been monitoring the emails a little bit, and the petitioners for item 37 and 47 are going to request a deferral this evening to April 21st, and Mr. Cooper is going to request a deferral for item 39 to April 21st versus the 14th.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. Anyway, and so that's helpful. Is the person, this Bob Basic, who's one of the twin home owners today, who called me, and he and I visited for really quite a long time, and he was concerned about how the posting was done. He didn't think the posting was done on very visible streets, and he was having trouble getting a call back from the person in charge of this rezoning effort and so forth. And so that information is helpful. I just wanted to share that with you. And I didn't ask any of these kinds of questions at the briefing on Thursday because I had not heard from Mr. Basic at that point. So anyway, okay, seeing nothing else from any of you, I would like to adjourn our informational for today, and I know the Finance Committee will meet immediately after our informational. I will see you all this evening at 7 p.m. Thank you.